Here is the video for Geometry's review number 20. The review and the test 20 are due this Friday, the 15th. It's your last test, so make sure you do a great job on it. It's your last chance to bring your grade up. You'll have another homework assignment due, but this is your last test, so you need to make sure that you do a good job on it so that if you're not pleased with your grade, you can bring it up with this last test. Okay, so on the review number 1, you've got a graph like this, which I'm about to do it, so I don't care if you see the key. You've got a graph like this. These are concentric circles, meaning they have the same center. So you count over and count up. So your center is at 3, 4. So my center, so I identify the center, which you need to too. And then the radius of one circle is 1, because it's just one box. I know it's hard to read, but you can kind of see that. So the radius is 1. And then the second one, your radius, if we count over, looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4. If we count over, so its radius is 4. So then that means x minus 3 all squared, because I changed the signs. Y minus 4 all squared equals 1, because 1 squared is 1. That's one of them. And then x minus 3 all squared plus y minus 4 all squared equals 16, because I square the 4 and get 16. So those are your concentric circles, and that's the way they work. Then on number 2, which on this test there's a lot of signs and a lot of cosines, law of sines, law of cosines. I am going to do the lesson on law of cosines and send the video out on either Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. So when I talk about law of cosines, I know you're going to say, wait a minute, we haven't talked about that, but I'm going to. It's lesson 98, and I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover that this week. So I'll send out a lesson on that so you'll know how to do that. But law of cosines is easy, but I think number 2 is law of sines, which we've already talked about. So let's see, we've got, this is 12, this is 84, and this is 19. So I want to find angle A, which is up here. Here's angle A, here's C, and here's B. So I may have to do some extra work because I don't have the side opposite A. So I'm going to have to find angle C first, which means I do sine of C over 12 equals sine of 84 over 19. So sine of C, I move that 12, so it would be 12 sine 84 over 19. And then I have to do an inverse sine of all this stuff, 12 sine 84 over 19. So putting that in your calculator, you hit your second key and the sine key, and you put in 12 sine 84, close parentheses after the 84, divided by 19, hit enter. That gives you about 38.9. So I want you to round it to, it's 38.9, so I want you to round it to 39. So angle C is 39. So then to find angle A, you just subtract. So you just have to do that one law of sines, and then do 180 minus 84 minus 39. So 180 minus 84 minus 39 gives me 57. So angle A is 57. So that's number 2. Then let's see, number 3, we've got a triangle again. This is 37, this is 114, and this is 33. So we want, how far is each player from the football? So here's the football at C, this is B and A. So we want both of these sides. So again, law of sines. So we're doing law of sines again. So we could put, well, I've got 33 and I don't have this angle measure. So I've got to find that angle measure first, which is just an easy subtraction from 180. So I've got to do 180 minus 114 minus 37. So 180 minus 114 minus 37 is 29. So that angle right there is 29. So then I could do 33 over sine 29 equals side A, because side A is opposite angle A, over sine 114. So then 33 sine 114 over sine 29 equals A. So then type it in, 33 sine 114, close parentheses, divided by sine 29, gives me about 62, and we're supposed to round it to the nearest foot. So this is 62 feet, label it. So then I set up for side B, and I use 33 over sine 29 again, because those are opposites, 33 and 29. And then side B over sine 37. So then 33 sine 37 over sine 29 is B, and I type that in the calculator. 33 sine 37, close parentheses, divided by sine 29. Hit enter. It's 40.96. I want it to the nearest foot because that's what I'm told to do. So it's 41 feet. And so that solves number 3. Again, lots of law of sines, lots of law of sines, lots of law of cosines on this test. Number 4 is where you've got, let's see, a pole for a tent makes a 78-degree angle with the ground and the load on the pole. So that looks like this. It makes a 78-degree angle with the ground. This is the pole, and the pole is, it's pulling an 18-pound load. So you want your vertical and horizontal loads. You want your vertical and your horizontal load. So I've told you, your horizontal is always the magnitude times the cosine of the angle, and your vertical or your y is the magnitude times the sine of the angle. So I've given you those shortcuts. I want you to use those shortcuts. I want you to remember those shortcuts. And then you type those in your calculator. 18 cosine 78 gives you about 3.74, rounding to the nearest hundredth like we're supposed to. And then 18 sine 78 gives you about 17.61, rounded to the nearest hundredth like we're asked to do. Okay, then let's see on number 5, a person standing 300 feet away from the building. So standing 300 feet away of the building has an angle of elevation of 69. We want the height of the building. So here's the person standing 300 feet away. We want the height of the building. We don't have the hypotenuse, so I can't use sine or cosine, so it's got to be tangent. Tangent of 69 equals opposite over adjacent. So 300 tan of the angle. Type that in the calculator, 300 tangent. And then that's going to be about 782 because you have to round it to the nearest foot. Okay, then number 6 is law of cosines, where you're going to find an angle measure. And I'm giving you a shortcut for law of cosines. And either I've already covered law of cosines because I've done law of cosines with your class, or I'm about to, and with Algebra 2 also, and also with pre-cal. So if you've already heard of it, great. Or I'm about to send you notes on it, one or the other. Okay, but here we want angle C, which here's angle C, there's angle A, and here's angle B. So law of cosines, if you're looking for an angle measure, this is what you do. So if I want angle C, which is what I'm asked for, I'm going to do an inverse cosine of a lot of stuff. And that stuff are the sides. So we look at the sides that surround angle C. The sides are 20 and 23. So 20 squared plus 23 squared minus 18 squared. All over 2 times 20 times 23. So that's how you set up law of cosines when you're looking for an angle measure. I think it's a little bit easier than law of sines because you don't have as much work to do. You find the angle you want, you find the two sides around it, you subtract the one that's opposite like we've done here, and now you type it in your calculator very carefully, okay? So what you're going to do when you type it in your calculator is you're going to hit second and cosine, and you're going to start an extra set of parentheses. Then you're going to put all that numerator in it. So 20 squared plus 23 squared minus 18 squared, and you go to close parentheses around the numerator. Then you're going to divide by 2 times 20 times 23. And that's going to give you 48.8, which I want it rounded to the nearest whole number, so 49. So angle C is 49. That's the only angle you want to find. That's how you find it using law of cosines. Again, I'm going to go over law of cosines. I'm going to send either a video out either Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning, because that's the lesson that you're going to do, is lesson 98, to explain more about law of cosines. Okay, then on number 7, it's actually from lesson 99, but it's a pretty easy concept, so I'm going to show you number 7. You've got 2 cylinders there. One has a radius of 4 and one has a radius of 3. So its scale factor would be 4:3. Now we have the volume of the smaller cylinder is 135. So I want to set up a proportion. The volume of my smaller cylinder is 135. I put 3 on the bottom, so 135 needs to be on the bottom. If I'm talking about volume, just cube this. 64 over 27, and you find the volume of the other one, okay? We've done perimeter, we've done area where we squared it. Well, now we're doing volume, so we cube it. You find the scale factor, easy to find, 4 over 3. It's going to be just like this on the test, and you cube it when you put it in your proportion. And you can use your review on the test, so follow what I'm showing you, and you should be good to go. So 64 times 135 divided by 27 gives you 320. So 320 feet cubed. And we've talked about this with perimeter and area and like surface area. So that's why I feel okay about showing it to you and just showing you that you need to cube it for the volume. Then on number 8, it says something about using a matrix to find it. You're not going to use a matrix. What you're going to do is you're going to find the points for A, B, and C. So A looks like it's at -4, 1. So A is -4, 1. B is a -1. Actually, B is 1, -1. B is right 1, down 1. And C is right 4, up 2. So C is 4, 2. And you are supposed to dilate it by a factor of 3. So you need to multiply everything by 3. So A prime would be -12, 3. We've talked about this. We've talked about dilations. The matrix thing is just a different way to represent it, and I'm not going to go into that, but you should know how to dilate by multiplying by 3. So you multiply everything by 3. There are your new coordinates. That's all I want to see. Okay? So you're going to have one like that on the test. Look at what we did on number 8 and follow that. Okay? Don't worry about doing the matrix thing. Then number 9, they're not concentric because they don't have the same center, so not concentric. And then number 10, we're skipping. You're skipping number 10. Don't worry about number 10. Number 11 is finding the annulus. So we've got one circle that has a radius of 4, and then the 7, which is just so hard to tell. The 7 is the whole thing. Why? Because it's drawn all the way through. If it were just right here and had 7, then you'd know you need to add the 4 and the 7, okay? But you don't need to add the 4 and the 7 here because it goes the whole way. So this is where you do area is pi r squared. So you do pi times 7 squared minus pi times 4 squared. So 49 pi minus 16 pi gives you 33 pi centimeters squared. Leave it exact. It's easier. There's no reason to change it, so just leave it exact. Then let's see. Number 12. The equation of the circle is x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 9. So my center here is 2, 3, and my radius is 3. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to identify that stuff before I go on. What is the equation of the circle if it's translated 8 units to the left, so that's a -8, and 1 unit down, negative 1. So my new center is -6, 2. So it'd be x plus 6 all squared plus y minus 2 all squared equals 9 because my radius didn't change. But it was left 8, so that's a negative, and down 1, so that's a negative. So it just affects my center like I showed you. So that's number 12. Then on number 13, we're either going to use an inverse sine, inverse cosine, or inverse tangent to find theta. This is 20, this is 30. I do not have the hypotenuse, so I can't use sine or cosine. So this has got to be tangent. So tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. So that means I do inverse tangent of 30 over 20 and type that in the calculator. I don't know why I did two ends there. There should just be one end. Now it's just a mess. So second tangent, 30 over 20. Round that to the nearest degree because that's what I want. So that's about 56. So that's number 13. Then number 14, and this is a 2-page review. This is a 2-page review and a 2-page test because there's lots of pictures on it. Actually, number 14, we're going to skip. That's spherical geometry. There's just one lesson on it, but we're going to have to skip it this year. Number 15, you are given triangle DEF. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Triangle DEF, where DE is 9, DF is 10, angle F is 64, and you want E. Okay, this is law of sines again. We're going to set up a proportion. We want angle E, so I can do sine of 64 over 9, sine of 64 over 9 equals sine E over 10, because I have the side across from E. So when I have the side across from angle E, it's just one law of sines I'm going to have to do. So 10 sine 64 over 9 equals sine E. So then that means I've got to do inverse sine of 10 sine 64 over 9. So inverse sine, second sine of 10 sine 64, close parentheses, divided by, whoops, I did it too much, hold on. So second sine, because I've got to do the inverse sine, of 10 sine 64, close parentheses, divided by 9. That's 87. And so I want to round it to the nearest whole number, 87. And that's it. You don't want to find the other one. So we don't have to subtract. We don't have to find side E. We don't have to find side EF. We just had to do that one law of sines. Okay, so that's 15. We're going to skip number 16 because we're not going to get to that lesson. So number 16, you're going to skip. Then number 17, you're actually finding a side length. You're finding a side length. This is 70, this is 16, and this is 22. When it's set up like this, you can't use law of sines because there's no way for us to find these other angle measures. So this is your law of cosines. So C is going to equal the square root of 12 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 12 times 16 cosine 70. That's your law of cosines. Now again, I'm going to go over this lesson, but that's how you find a side length using law of cosines. You have an angle and two sides around it, and so this is the way you set it up. And then you just type it in your calculator. So you do square root, you put the square root in and then type all that in. 12 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 12 times 16 cosine 70. And that gives you about 16.39, which we want to round it to, hold on. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. This is a 22, not a 12. I don't know where I got 12 from. So let me retype it with 22. So it should be 22 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 22 times 16. That's a 16. Cosine 70. So let me go back and make everything a 22. That should be a 22. So that's a 22. And that's a 22. There we go, 22.3. So about 22.3 is what that should be. Okay, then on 18, we're doing equations of circles again, where we've got x minus 4 all squared plus y plus 8 all squared equals 256. So my center right now is 4 comma negative 8. My radius is 16. And I want to dilate this by a fourth. So that means I'm going to multiply everything by 1/4. Multiply, not add. So that's going to be 1, negative 2. That's my new center. My new radius is 4. So x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared, because I change all that, equals 16, because 4 squared is 16. Then number 19, I've got side lengths. A is 20, B is 14, C is 17. This is law of cosines. I want angle B. If I want angle B, that means I'm going to do inverse cosine of the other two sides, 20 and 17, subtract side B over 2 times 20 times 12. Now again, when I go over this lesson, it's going to make more sense. When I give you notes and stuff, it's going to make more sense on this lesson. But anyway, to find angle B, we use the other two sides, A and C, minus B squared, minus side B squared over 2 times AC, because B is the angle that we're finding. Put that in the calculator very carefully. So you're going to do second cosine. You're going to open another set of parentheses, 20 squared. Oh, let me make sure I've got my numbers right. I don't. That's a 17. I put 12, that's a 17. That should be a 17. It should be 20 squared plus 17 squared minus 14 squared over 2 times 20 times 17, not 12. Don't know where I got the 12 from. Okay, so glad I fixed it before I typed it in. Minus 14 squared, close parentheses, divided by open parentheses, 2 times 20 times 17, close parentheses, and you get about, because it's 43.5. The test says, or the review and the test say nearest tenth. I want it to the nearest whole number because it's an angle. So make sure you round it to the nearest whole number on number 19. Okay, and then 20, we haven't talked about it, but it's it's another very easy concept. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. You're not going to have a problem with it. So this is x, and of course, you know, look at the test to see, and the review to see how it's really drawn. Okay, so we've got a tangent and a secant, and we want to find the tangent. So what we do is we do x times x. Whatever the tangent is, we multiply by itself. Then for this part, the secant part, we do 8 times 8 plus 24. So we do the outside part times the whole thing, which is 8 plus 24, okay? So then that's x squared times 8 times 8 plus 24, which is 32. And then 32 times 8 is 256. So x squared equals 256. So x is the square root of 256, which is 16 inches. But that's easy. The test will look just like this. Square that tangent. That's a tangent. Square it, or just put x times x. Then this outside part times the whole thing, outside plus inside part, is the way you do one like 20. And that is your review. Again, this is for review number 20 for test 20. Both of them are due this Friday the 15th. If you're wanting to better your grade, then this is the way to do it, is to do well on the review and on this test, and then the last homework assignment that I'm going to assign on Wednesday.